The UAE's transition from oil to innovation. So, what do you think is their secret?
They understood you have to go for diversification as a structured solution. The Prime Minister of India in 2022, Prime Minister Modi, and the UAE government has resulted in enormous amount of 16% up in terms of trade. It's a trust between these two nations. The chemistry between His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, UAE ruler, and Prime Minister Modi is exemplary.
The African CFTA feels like a new dawn. What do you want to say about that?
Wow. What an operation they built. The elimination of extreme poverty is very, very important around the world. 54 countries coming together, uniting in a common trading forum with the free zone is an impeccable move. They have come together with a common agenda, bringing sustainability to value chain.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Green Generation podcast. I am Shruti Seetharaman, your host for today, and I am joined by Dr. Seetharaman, who is a global economist, a visionary banker, and someone who is a sustainability advocate. So today we're talking about how nations, investors, and change makers can build trust in a world that keeps shifting ground. Are you ready to engage the audience?
Absolutely.
Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is that the world has been unpredictable lately, right? In terms of wars, inflations, AI disruption, even supply chain shocks. Yet economies continue to find balance. So how are nations actually turning volatility into stability?
You need predictability in terms of policy framework. You need transparency. You need to digitize with the changing face of the world. You also have to create trust between nations. The recent uncertain policies, lack of trust, transparency, and also from globalization, now multipolarization, from bilateral to multilateral trading systems. So these are major reasons we have to understand. Add to that, as you rightly said, supply chain disruptions. And it's all national agenda, then global agenda. You have to play to the domestic audience. In spite of the fact you are integral part of the global family. The global governance is getting challenged in terms of trade, investments, banking, finance. And this is on account of lack of convergence between politics and economics, if I have to use one expression.
Okay, so would you say it's more like trust over transaction?
Absolutely. Trust creates the trade. Trade will not come unless there is trust. If you start trusting nations, there will not be any blame game.
Fair. I like that line, trust over transaction. So now let's talk about Vietnam, where it feels like the quiet kid who topped the class when no one was watching, right? What made it stand out?
Amazing transformation. In the last 12 years, 20 times their trade expansion. That says it all. Whether it is Samsung or Apple or Foxconn or Nike, you have global chains are sitting their window. They use it as their production centers. They use it as the place to do business. They also use it as a trading hub. So why? Predictability, number one. Number two, ease of doing business. Number three, again, transparency comes in. Number four, logistic fitments. When country has realized, Vietnam has realized they've gone through the war, they have to make the living meaningful, stable, functional. They created the trading hubs and ease of doing business and giving the comfort in terms of policy framework, in terms of tax holidays or otherwise, is a major reason.
Okay, and now I want to move on to Singapore. I feel like they work like clockwork even in chaos. So what do you have to say about that?
Singapore is a super economy. Everything acts like a symphony, right? You have heterogeneous instruments, but the music is synchronized. Different shapes of the body, but it works together. Integrated economy. Predictability is the name of the game for Singapore. You can say very clearly, this is the immigration policy, this is the tax policy, this is the import-export tariffs. They also balance US and China, and great relationship with India, and making sure the community lives in harmony.
Okay.
In spite of multi-ethnicity and culture. They have one culture that is predictable, trustworthy trading hub, manufacturing hub, and super economy.
And talking about multi-ethnicity, I feel like we should be talking about UAE, which is literally got, I think, half the world and half of India in there. The UAE's transition from oil to innovation has been inspiring as well. So what do you think is their secret?
That's a classic story. In spite of the fact you have oil, they understood you have to go for diversification as a structured solution. If you look at India, you mentioned there's 35% of the population as such. Now, the big picture is the bilateral agreements which they signed, what you call comprehensive economic partnership agreement. Bilateral trade is over $85 billion. The trade expansion since they signed, His Excellency, the Prime Minister of India, in 2022, Prime Minister Modi, and the UAE government has resulted in enormous amount of 16% up in terms of trade. And it's a huge trust. It's not only the trade, it's a trust between these two nations. The chemistry between His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, UAE ruler, and Prime Minister Modi is exemplary. And you can see the chemistry in their body language. And that has resulted in trade or investments, banking or finance. Yesterday they have invested multi-billion in a bank called Ratnakar Bank. So Emirates NBD is investing. So it moves on.
Okay, that is great to hear. And also I want to talk about Japan. There's something poetic about Japan where its economy feels emotionally intelligent.
Absolutely. I had been to Japan. I set up my infrastructure there. I mean, all the countries which you're mentioning, I have extraordinary experience. Japan, for example, 2005, I set up my trading and correspondent banking office for trade finance. I set up, and the single largest trading partner for Qatar. I was running a bank called Doha Bank, nearly 20 years. And I could see clearly in 2005 how much they are spiritual, number one. Culturally, how they are akin. In spite of the fact they've gone through extraordinary downturn, the Second World War, they research on account of hard work, they research on account of commitment, they research on account of trustworthiness. 2011, there was a major nuclear disaster. The economy was going down. It was technical recession for decades, but everyone trusted. Everyone was dealing with Japan in spite of downward turn. That shows character in Japan, and they mean their commitments. They honored all their payments. There's no discomfort for any nation. Their word is a check. As a banker, I can tell you that's the experience I've always had with Japanese.
Integrity, yeah. Okay, and now we're going to look at Africa. I hope I'm saying it right. The African CFTA feels like a new dawn. What do you want to say about that?
Wow. What an operation they built. You know, the elimination of extreme poverty is very, very important around the world. 30 million people they are pulling out. 30 million out of 54 countries. India has lifted over 275 million in the last 10 years from extreme poverty. Africa is another classic story. 54 countries coming together, uniting in a common trading forum with the free zones is an impeccable move. It's an amazing confidence and the ease of doing business. They simplify the rules, they simplify the tax structure, they have given incentives, tax holidays. And now Africa is attractive. India is building a very strong relationship, Arab-African relationship. I switched on again with South Africa way back in 2014-15. I had a great experience. And again, I had been to West Africa, including, Monetary Union I met, Senegal I had visited, South Africa apart, you had East Africa I had been, Tanzania I had been, and I had been to Kenya. The experience is very clear, it's emerging because they have come together with a common agenda, bringing sustainability value chain. They have enough resources. This needs to be digged out, and these rare earth minerals are going to be great support for them and their growth.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we did talk about one of the sustainability goals in the past about reducing the gap between the rich and the poor and reducing poverty levels. So I think it's definitely moving towards that level. And now, since you also did mention India, I want to go back to India. That is transforming digitally and democratically. What do you have to say about it?
Wow, what a story to reckon. I have been a non-resident over 40 years. What I'm saying is with all confidence, the future belongs to India. India is the economic engine. Nowhere in the world, this vibrancy, I'm saying it, what I've seen in the last 10 years, I have not seen earlier. The leadership has built in this brand equity with the trade or investment, banking or finance, whether it is UPI, Aadhaar, YNDC, the digital advantage they've cashed in. Even with the QR code, 1 rupee, a tea seller is part of the global growth today. Middle class population, demographic dividend, millions of younger populations who are ready to jump into with skill base, billions. If you look at the big picture, 65% of the population is less than 35. Over 125 airports, 110 smart cities, over 4 to 4.5 trillion infrastructure modernization, airports, seaport, road, rail, digital. They're superpower in terms of digital advantage. With the defining phase we are going through on account of tariff, India is creating Silicon Valley in every state. Younger population, the entrepreneurship is scaling up. Universal organizations now, they look at India is going to be the major player in terms of digital commerce. Already it's happening. We are second to none, right? So that's precisely the opportunity India is counting on. The future belongs to India, and the younger generation is going to be well off than the previous generation. That's the beauty. World counts on India's integrity, honesty as a functional democracy, and multicultural with one single-minded vision, one family approach. And they have set in a pace of growth which nobody can beat, 6 to 6.5 minimum growth. And inflation is under control, alignment between monetary policy and fiscal policy. India is the global Vishwa Guru, as they say. Our Prime Minister has been highly respected in terms of global leadership. And everyone likes India, whether it is geopolitical fragmentation or otherwise. Everyone needs India because we are not just $4.2 trillion economy. Our purchasing power parity is nearing $20 trillion. That says it all. India is a shining star.
And it's not because we are Indian, proudly Indian, of course, but I think a lot of people are saying the future belongs to
since you're mentioning not that I'm proud Indian, 40 odd years before, when I took my passport, went around the country, in the airports, I know what sort of respect I commanded and what I am commanding today. I've not changed my passport. I will never. The point I'm trying to say is everything's happening. There's a reverse engineering happening. People want to come back to India, those who left also, because opportunities are endless.
Yeah, in general, the younger generation, I think, no longer wants to step out of India. They're very happy when it comes to either work opportunities or future growth opportunities. They're very happy with how India is progressing.
People are happy.
People are happy.
Whether you have money or not.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
Okay.
The society creates a culture, right? Yeah. That's the beauty.
And now that we've spoken a little bit about the entire world, and of course India as well, the question is, what's the biggest takeaway that you would like to say? How do we strengthen trade and investment in such an unpredictable world?
Trust, transparency, and the transformation. Trust becomes trade, growth becomes grace. And again, institutions are built with integrity. These are three traits And the transformation is the way forward. Every day seems transformational because so much changing dynamics around the world. A digital advantage is giving. Embrace the change, synchronize your vision, and trust. Create the transparency, create the transformational initiative which are responsive for you to lift elimination of extreme poverty, bring in gender equality, making sure you have economic momentum which is second to none. That's happening in places where leadership is strong and governance is transparent.
No, absolutely. I think we always say time is money, but in this situation, like you said, trust becomes trade. Trust is also money, right?
Yeah.
And I think I enjoyed listening to a little bit of how trade and investment is now booming in different parts of the world. Hopefully, all of you also enjoyed watching this episode.
Let me also underline not only India, but I have to frame up a few countries which are Mexico has now become the South American nearshore center, and Chile lithium identification is giving them enormous amount of empowerment. When I talk about empowerment, Bangladesh, 85% of the export is textile, and women entrepreneurs, women empowerment, Bangladesh is a key. So when you empower powerless, they become the part of the growth engine. I can go on, and in terms of Europe, the unity, the countries coming together with one monetary union in spite of different fiscal frame is another classic example how they can now, with the change, reverse engineering in terms of globalization, they stand out again. When it comes to Vietnam, I mentioned to you, Korea is a classic story. Industrialization, imagine what status they were in. Extreme poverty stage after the Second World War, where they have reached now, right? Let's not undermine America. America, in spite of all the challenges which they're going through now, innovation is a major thrust on America. That's why intellectual property was required, and they are hired from world over. They became immigrants. They are the power center for America. Once you dismantle that, you don't have future for America. I hope it's not going to happen. And similarly, the capital, the global capital base, the private equity hedge fund holders, they have resources. And that's what matters. So all these are happening around the world. It's not only one country, but standing out in the midst is eminent India.
Okay, that is great to hear. Like I said, proudly Indian, but also we're realizing how much the rest of the world is also working so hard on sustainability with trade and investment.
Absolutely.
Hopefully you enjoyed watching this episode. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.